Hello and welcome to Caregivers First, a show brought to you by SCAN, the Social Community Activities Network. SCAN is a nonprofit agency dedicated to helping active adults stay informed, empowered, and inspired. I am your host, Lynette Whiteman, and I am the Executive Director of Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey. As a caregiver for my mother, I know firsthand that this role can sometimes feel like a lonely and difficult journey. Caregivers First was developed to give you knowledge and help you navigate this time in your life. My guests will be experts who will provide you with the latest information and tips to make your life easier. I hope to give you real-life tools and let you know that you are not alone at this time. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome my guest, Steve Zaffarese, who is a physical therapist from Atlantic Physical Therapy Center. So welcome, Steve. Thank you for being my guest today.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So tell us a little bit about Atlantic Physical Therapy Centers.
So Atlantic Physical Therapy Center is a New Jersey-based company. It was started by two brothers back in 2003 who started with one clinic, which has grown over the years to a total of 15, mainly along the eastern part of the state. I have a clinic in East Windsor, which is our westernmost facility in Mercer County, and the company provides physical therapy for all types of post-surgical work, aches and pains, workers' compensation, anything and everything we cover across our facilities.
You're in New Jersey, right?
Exclusively
you're a
in New Jersey,
based
yeah.
Company. So one of the things that I think you get to a certain age and you hear pretty much everybody knows somebody that either is going for a knee replacement, had a knee replacement, is thinking about a knee replacement. So what are some of the things that people should know when they're thinking about having a knee replaced?
Knee replacements and hip replacements definitely go together as the two most popular orthopedic surgeries, especially for the older population. And what is, I think, the most important to know about them is that the progress that has been made in their success rate continues to evolve very, very quickly. So even if you knew someone 10 or 15 years ago that had a difficult time, chances are today that would be a much different situation. Procedures are improving in every aspect of the surgery, and the rehabilitation process is also improving. So they are very good surgeries, some of the best orthopedic surgeries that we have across the board, and they, for the most part, are very successful in reducing your pain and letting you get back to an active lifestyle again without that debilitating pain. And I think another thing that goes along with it is the fear of the rehabilitation. We talk to people all the time who talk about how they knew they've needed the surgery for quite a while, but they couldn't imagine taking 3 months, 4 months to recover from the surgery. And one of the biggest points to understand is that if you are truly suffering, especially rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, those conditions can be so painful that even with the surgery, you can have a net improvement in pain almost immediately. Many, many people talk about the fact that their post-surgical pain, even in the hospital, is better than their pain was prior. And so we are at a point where it's pretty safe to say that if you are becoming restricted in your daily activities, that's about the time that you really want to act.
So two things pop into my head. Number one, is there things that you should do before the surgery to prepare or strengthen your knee area? And number two, I was always told or heard that a knee replacement maybe lasts 10 or 15 years, so you should wait for as long as you possibly can to have the surgery. So I just wanted to ask that before I forgot it. So we could go to preparing first.
Yes, so in preparing, the easiest way to think about it is that the better you are going into surgery, the better you are going to be coming out. And for people that have this surgery approaching, it is most of the time because they're in significant pain, and significant pain will cause you to decrease your activity. But if you take the first or the couple months prior to surgery as a time to become a couch potato and stop exercising and lose some muscle mass, you're going to have to make that up immediately following the surgery. So the best bet really is to be active as you can up to that point, and check with your physician. A lot of physicians will do what's called a prehab, rehabilitation before the event, to strengthen, to get ligaments and other tissues softened up and kind of ready, because that'll make your job after the surgery easier. Some don't believe in it fully, and for that there is a wealth of information available online or through local physical therapy groups. A lot of places give classes. They have some introduction to it where you can learn some of the basic exercises.
And that's called
to be
prehab?
working at. Prehab is a term that's used for it.
So you could Google prehab
Absolutely.
for knee surgery?
Or hip surgery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then waiting as long as you...
Yes. So in terms of that, that is another thing that does go back quite a few years to the time, kind of the mid-90s or so, when surgeries became popular and the materials used had a lifespan. So we would always hear surgeons recommending wait until you just can't stand it anymore,
right,
and then have it done, with the expectation that that replacement will have a lifespan of 10, 15 years or so. So if you're 55 years old, you don't want to
right,
have this knee replacement and then know you're going to have to face it again. That, for the most part, does not exist in that same way any longer. Parts and components and the surgical techniques have provided surgeries that have a much longer lifetime. So it's very easy to expect now in a lot of cases that if you're having your hip replaced, you can plan an active life on that hip for 25 plus years. So the waiting as long as possible is not a factor any longer like it used to be.
Even with knees, it's the same thing?
Even with knees, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
There are people certainly who will have a second surgery. We see knee replacements on people in their 20s, 30s, 40s for different reasons. And if they live an active lifestyle, that they may run into an issue down the line. But for the most part, they are very durable. They last a long time. And if it is time to do it because you're no longer able to get through your activities, probably better to get it done, risk the chance of having possibly another surgery, as opposed to knowing that you're going to suffer for the next 2, 3, 4 years while you wait for this, and then potentially cause other issues.
Right. And what's your feeling about having both knees done at the same time as far as rehabbing from that?
It's still a controversial topic in the world of rehab and surgery. The pluses are that from start to finish, you're going to have a shorter time frame. Each knee is going to recover slightly longer than an individual one would recover, but certainly not putting one right on the end of another. It doesn't double your time. The biggest factor is that you need to be healthy in other ways. So you need to understand that if you're having both knees done or both hips done, despite the fact that you can put weight on them, that they are going to hold you, that you will still have your strength after surgery, you're still going to need your arms a good deal. So you need to make sure that the rest of your body is healthy, and the surgery is a little bit longer and a little bit more involved in the amount of body parts, so the healing afterwards is going to be more significant. So that's really an individual question for your surgeon, because some surgeons love it and some surgeons still won't do it. So that's up in the air, and it's a very individualized decision.
And if a caregiver is still working, or you're still working and you're going for the surgery, how much time generally should somebody plan to be out of work? Let's say they're only doing one.
Right. For a normal, healthy, active person, we have a lot of runners, we have a lot of cyclists who over years have abused their knees. So they are active, healthy people to begin with. And for that, not unusual to expect that you can be back to some normal activity in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, about that time period. For full recovery, certainly that's going to be longer. To get back to your normal activity, probably about 3 months,
3 months
is a little more
realistic. And that's
realistic.
for like an older, non-athlete sort of slumpy person,
Yeah.
the normal person,
Yeah.
that would be.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. And So talk to me just a little bit about the training. Physical therapists, I think people don't know how much training is involved with it. What is the training process for physical therapists?
Physical therapy has evolved in this country over the last 50 years in terms of the education. Originally, it was a certificate program. You got a job in a hospital out of high school or college, and you worked in a rehab department, and they trained you, and you became a rehab aide, and eventually through time you could actually become a therapist. That changed in the 50s into the 60s with bachelor degrees in physical therapy itself, which then evolved into a required master degree in the late 90s, early 2000s, and today, now, almost all therapists that are graduating with their doctorate.
What?
So a typical doctorate degree would be 4 years of college and then about 3.5 years of physical therapy school, but it does vary slightly on the program. And then there are other programs for students who enter as a freshman in college and work straight through, and that speeds up the process a little bit to get it down to about 6.5 years of schooling.
I don't think people realize how much is involved
there's a good amount.
Training. Right.
There's a good amount of education.
Right. And I know that after you go for physical therapy, you feel sore, or you're working muscles that aren't used to be working. So is there a rule of thumb a week later if you're still feeling that pain? Or
a week later would be significant.
Yeah. So what do you tell your patients? Like, how long should you actually feel pain after a session?
Pain is an interesting thing in therapy because there is good pain and bad pain, and that's a strange kind of concept. But if you've had surgery, we know what has happened, we know why you're in pain. Having some pain is certainly to be expected both in therapy and after therapy, but as a general rule of thumb, we're dealing with soft tissues and muscular tissues, and what we want is we want to work those tissues to their comfortable limit, but not go too far beyond. We don't want to cause damage, we don't want to cause a setback, we don't want to cause someone who was doing good and their knee surgery was feeling nice, and now they're so sore they're limping again. So with that, our general rule is about 24 to 30 hours of soreness afterwards is okay. So you go to your physical therapy session on Tuesday. It's okay to be sore on Wednesday and to feel like you've kind of went through it a little bit.
Right.
But by that evening, by the next day, you should be back to normal. If you're returning to physical therapy 48 hours later and you're still sore, you've probably done too much, and not too much in that you're going to damage yourself and cause an injury, but enough that there's no reason to cause that discomfort and set yourself back and kind of have to reset again.
And I think you generally give people exercises at home to follow.
Yes.
And I don't know what percentage of people actually follow them. But
well, the very important thing to think about there is we as therapists will see you for an hour or so each time you're in, and that might be 2 or 3 times per week. But all in all, that at the most is going to be 4 or 5 hours of therapy in the week, leaving you on your own for quite a long time. And you do need follow-up, and you do need to continue. So under the instruction of your therapist, there should be a program that you are continuing with to complement what you're doing in the clinic.
Right. And do you work with people, like, once you're done, if they want to go back to the gym, you say, okay, do this, don't overdo it here, and things like that. Do you advise people once they leave your fold, how to do that?
Returning to normal functional activity is really the ultimate goal for anybody coming to physical therapy. Yes, we want your knee to bend further. Yes, we want you to be able to sleep through the night, and yes, we want strength to be where it should be. But ultimately, we want you to be able to go downstairs in the morning, reach into your cabinet, make breakfast for yourself, grab your stuff, and get to work and sit at your computer without pain.
Right.
And the functional portion of it is much more important.
Perfect. We're going to take a short break now, and we're going to come right back with Steve Zaffarese from Atlantic Physical Therapy Center to talk more information about different things that you might be feeling. We'll be right back.
You probably already know that rehabilitation is a must for successful recovery from surgery, injury, or serious illness. What you may not know is that you're free to choose where you go for rehab. In Monmouth and Ocean County, the compelling choice is Care One. Where you choose to go for rehab matters, and with Care One, you have 4 convenient locations to choose from in Monmouth and Ocean counties. Care One at Jackson, Care One at Wall, Care One at Homedale, and Care One at King James in the Atlantic Highlands. At Care One, you'll work with a team of experts to develop a plan based on your needs and goals. You'll have the full support of caring, compassionate physicians, RNs, licensed therapists, and nutritionists dedicated to helping you recover successfully, without setbacks, at a pace that makes you comfortable and successful in meeting your rehabilitation goals. Once you take the first step with us, you'll never look back. Call 877-99-CARE-1 today and come for a tour.
Welcome back to SCAN and Caregivers First. I am your host, Lynette Whiteman, Executive Director of Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey, and I'm having a really informative conversation with Steve Zaffarese from Atlantic Physical Therapy Centers. So Steve, before the break we talked a lot about knees and hips, and I know that's really common. But I imagine the other thing that you're seeing more and more these days are neck pain, shoulder pain, just from people sitting, being at their computers. Yeah. Is that an accurate assessment?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. From our daily lives now involve a significant amount of sitting and working directly in front of us, looking down, and all of these things are things we are built to do, but we're also built to work in the opposite direction as well, and we're not meant to do anything for too long. So sitting at a computer and people get involved in their work and they don't move for 2-3 hours and they are focused in one position is definitely not a good thing for you. And you do see now from time to time, and it comes up more, workplaces trying to be conscientious about how people sit and how they take breaks and things, and some of the easiest things to do are just to know how to adjust your own posture when sitting, and when you are involved with something that you can't tear yourself away from, even in your own seat, you can work to help yourself a little bit. And what I mean is, so much of our work is here, we're focus centered, our shoulders come forward, they turn in, our back arches, our head comes forward, and we will get stuck like that if you spend too much time there. Mm-hmm. So a great reminder, I tell people with neck pain and shoulder pain, which we see a lot of, to set a timer on your desk for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, something on that order, so that you can just pull back away from the computer, sit, pull your shoulders back behind you, stretch the front, and also bring your neck back to stretch. And those are some simple and important things to do.
So every 30 minutes you should just take a break, sit back.
That would be a great benchmark to set. Absolutely.
Walk around? Should you walk around?
Walking around is ideal.
Yeah,
that would be much better, because then you're involving the lower body and your legs as well, but at least to adjust your shoulders and your neck to get a stretch, to pull back, to look up, to turn side to side, and just let your body move the way it's supposed to for some period of time.
Because you do, like after a while you're just like, and then you don't even realize it, and then you're like, oh.
We see from physicians and we read now about things they simply call computer syndrome or desk worker syndrome, and it's just a matter of everything in the front being kind of compressed and shortened together and never stretching that out to allow the muscles in the back to function properly.
Wow. The other thing I'm sure you see is caregivers who have main responsibility for people, and they're lifting and they're getting people out of chairs, and they don't know the mechanics of how they're supposed to be doing that. Is that something that your injuries?
When in the real world we end up oftentimes with a spouse trying to help another spouse, and neither one of them may be in the best shape to be doing that. And those are somewhat complicated situations at times, but the one thing that's important and the one thing to think about to prevent injury is that if you do have to help someone, if you have to help someone out of a chair or you have to help someone maneuver, you want to try to steer away from grabbing arms, which move very easily and can cause stress to that person, versus trying to grab and help them at the center of their body. For more significant cases, there are what we use, which are gait belts, or kind of a gait vest would be a safety harness or a safety belt to be able to hold on to. And that very simply, with something like a belt, you're helping someone by assisting them right at their center of gravity. So less work for you to have to do, less work for them to have to do, as opposed to trying to grab onto arms or shoulders, which are moving on their own. And the best really thing to do is to get professional advice. If you're in a situation where you're helping someone, body mechanics are extremely important, because you don't want to hurt the person you're helping, but more importantly, if you get hurt, then you're not going to be able to help at all. And so that is important. And each situation can be a little bit different, and talking to someone is definitely a good idea.
And can they call a physical therapy office to get that sort of advice? Or
Absolutely. Absolutely. The main point of contact for caregiver training for us is having a patient come in, and then we talk to them about what they're doing at home. Oh, you have to have, your husband helps you now on and off of the shower chair since you've been back. If you want to bring them in, we can show them and make sure that you're doing it safely. And that's the main point for it. Certainly accessible as a standalone. If you were to call a physical therapist and explain that you're having caregiver trouble, that on its own is a reason to come to physical therapy, but we also often do it incorporated with an ongoing treatment.
And the vest that you mentioned in the belt, the patient, the person that's being cared for wears that.
Yeah, and only
helps
temporarily. Put it on for the
okay.
time being, so that the caregiver has a safe place to hold on to.
Okay.
We don't want to grab onto someone's existing belt on their pants or grab their pants or their shirt. So this is just a nice solid handle point to be able to assist them. Both makes it easier for you and for them.
Even home health care aides should know about
Absolutely.
that sort of thing. It would probably help their job and decrease
Absolutely.
injuries.
Yeah.
I think everybody's fear is when you get older is that fall and you break your hip, and basically your life is never the same after that. There's so many sad stories about people falling and then having to go into nursing homes and things like that. So is there any advice that you could give to people, or things that they could do at home to not have that happen? Or
home safety is very, very important, and it's the simple things that are the most effective. More people fall tripping over a throw rug that they put in front of their kitchen sink because they didn't want to drip water on the floor and create a hazard, and now they've created a greater hazard by putting a rug. So those are important. The thresholds between rooms, it's important. If something comes loose, if there's a piece of molding that's loose, those are the things that you really have to attend to very quickly. The other major risk factor in homes are pets. Dogs and cats are wonderful companion animals. I am all in favor of having them, but the last thing you ever want is to be getting ready in the morning and you're already going on and off of one foot, you're sitting on and off of the bed, and now you have an animal that's kind of circling around your feet is another area to be wary of, for sure.
And that's something that there's companies or people that come into your home that could look around and say, hey, this is a hazard.
There are physical therapists that do that. A home assessment, a home safety assessment is something that falls under a physical therapist to do, especially if someone's coming home from a surgery or a rehabilitation center. There oftentimes is an initial visit to look at the home. A lot of people, relating to what we were talking about before with joint replacements, home health is a part sometimes of joint replacement recovery, and the physical therapist or occupational therapist coming to the home at that point certainly will do a safety check and look for anything that is potentially a danger.
Okay. And is that something Atlantic Physical Therapy does? Is that something that they do? They go into the homes and they'll check a home?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
For little
Those
things. You know, a quick little once over to look around and make sure that things are safe. The other thing that comes into play with those are common sense things, but things that you really do want to think about. It's not a great idea to walk up and down your stairs with both hands full, keep a hand free for the rail.
Right.
The things that we want to take as shortcuts, we want to think about more because safety is ultimately more important.
Right. And I know Atlantic Physical Therapy also offers transportation, which could be a problem after you have knee surgery.
Absolutely.
And so you go actually to people's homes and pick them up. There's how does that work?
We have multiple vans that drive around each facility. We have 15 facilities in total. each facility has at least 3 days during the week that we provide transport. And so that is a minivan that comes to the house and picks you up. It is not a medical transport like an ambulance service, but it is transportation, especially like you said, for when you can't drive because you've had surgery on your right leg or something similar. So the kind of rule of thumb that we like to give patients is, if you are fearing that you're going to have to ask your neighbor over and over again for a ride, call us. That's exactly the level of service that we provide. If you can exit your home and get into a normal minivan, with obviously we have drivers that can assist, then that's a service that we offer, and it's a wonderful, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Is there somebody that, one of your patients or a caregiver that you've helped over the years that sticks in your mind as somebody that you really like, came in a certain way, and you know through physical therapy that you remember?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people come after having a knee replacement or shoulder surgery or something like that, most of the time expecting to get their normal life back. So a lot of times when you help someone with that, they are very thankful, but it's something that you expected and they expected. It's a little bit different for myself anyway in dealing with patients that have some type of neurological impairment, someone that has had a stroke. Sometimes the end is not known. You don't know how far recovery is going to go, so when you meet someone, and I'm thinking of someone in particular who has an active lifestyle, participates in sports, participates in a lot of senior activities, and then has a stroke and has lost that, to see the progression over a year of getting back to things that they maybe thought they were never going to get back to, that's really the most the most significant thing. Yeah, that's life-changing. That's the life-changing things that are good.
And if you could talk to caregivers and give them one last piece of advice as far as this world of physical therapy, what advice would you want to give to caregivers out there listening?
I think one thing that's important with caregivers, whether it's family members or hired help, is that we as people all want to do the best that we can do. We want to help ourselves. We don't want to be dependent. And when you become dependent for things, it sometimes is very difficult. It's difficult on people to handle. So that extra level of patience, that extra trying not to become frustrated, I think is the most important thing, because it makes it a better experience for everyone, and it can be a very stressful situation for a lot of people, and trying to work through it and trying to remain kind of level-headed and calm through everything is really the most valuable thing.
Yeah, it is. It's the hardest thing.
Exactly, yes.
and it's the most valuable thing too. Do a lot of couples come together to do physical therapy for you guys?
They do. They do, and a lot of times we will see someone and they'll say, you know what, this is really helping. I've been telling my wife for a number of years she could come, and sometimes that connection does help, and we do see couples together a lot.
I think people don't realize how much it's changed over the years, physical therapy.
Yes.
I shared with you before that my dad had knee replacement, and it was a nightmare, and now I talk to people and it's like it was a great experience. So it really, times have changed. And
procedures have improved so much, and techniques have improved, that the fear of physical therapy of being painful should not be a fear.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. You gave great information, and thank you so much for tuning into Caregivers First. I hope that you enjoyed it and learned some helpful tips about the world of physical therapy. And now it's your turn. I'd love to hear from you, what's on your mind, what topics you want covered. So please call SCAN at 732-542-1326 or email us. The email will be on the screen, and send us your ideas and feedback, and have a wonderful day, everybody. So thank you.